When was the last time a man truly poured into your life? Not just giving you advice, but walked with you and showed you the blueprint and helped you carry the weight. If you're like most men over 30, your answer is probably never. Here's the truth: over 80% of men, or should I say 80% of men over the age of 30, report having no mentor, no guide, no elder, no real connection to someone who can help them navigate life's hardest moments. And this silence is costing us. It's fracturing families, isolating fathers, leaving sons to grow up without a map for manhood. But what if we could change that? What if mentorship wasn't some unattainable dream, but something we could rebuild piece by piece, generation by generation? What if the wisdom of fathers, uncles, friends, and even brothers could flow again, creating a legacy of guidance and growth for men who feel lost today? The mentor crisis isn't just about men, it's about families, communities, and generations. It's about breaking the silence that tells men they have to figure it out alone. Because when men stop waiting for a hero and start becoming one for each other, everything changes. In tonight's episode, we're diving into why the lone wolf myth is starving men of connection, how to rebuild generational mentorship between father, son, and brothers, and the surprising ways communities can create spaces where men thrive, not just survive. This isn't about blame. It's about building. This isn't about what we've lost, but what we can create. The mentor you've been waiting for might not be someone else. It might be you. Of course. So of course, my bad. Um, I always like to start these conversations off just to kind of get the ball rolling, to grease the skids. Again, I want to remind everybody that this is the Empowering Perspective platform. And on Empowering Perspective, we believe wholeheartedly that we are subject matter experts of our own perspective. So, that said, gentlemen, of course, I think you guys know exactly where I'm going. What is mentorship?
Okay, I didn't know if I heard him thumping. I think mentorship is the influencing of someone to accomplish something that they normally wouldn't do. The leading, the guiding, the helping and assisting, and just walking through something with, not just sending them to a place, but walking them through a place and having purpose in whatever you're doing.
Okay, I like that. Son of Timothy.
Yeah, I'm. It's weird. I'm trying to find myself looking. I can't see myself. It's different.
If it makes you feel better, we can't see you either.
Right. Um, mentorship is the process of walking someone through step by step. It's it's a process in and of itself. You you know whether you're holding their hand at first, then let them walk a little bit while you walk aside, and then you watch them as they walk alone. However you want to lay it out. But mentorship is that ability to teach, to coach, to sound like NCO ship, right? But to to guide someone. I was had that conversation this week with someone. I said I think one of the things that we're missing is apprenticeship, right? We when people go get a trade, they go sit in these classes with 30 other people trying to get the trade, and no one is really becoming an expert at it until they actually get into the field and they're out there on their own figuring it out. But back when we had apprenticeship, you sat underneath your mentor. You were walked through, you watched them work for however long, and they got to put one-on-one time in with you until you became a master of that thing yourself, and you was able to go on and take on the trade. And that's how you got the name carpenter, or the name uh well, mechanic, or whatever trades we got now. So that's how I look at it when I think about mentorship.
Yeah. I love that response. And again, I'm also looking for what you guys are going to say in the chats as well. So please do not hesitate to share your thoughts. Um, when I explain it to, because just if you guys have not known, um, I actually teach at the Cyber Center of Excellence, and I teach captains, lieutenants, one officer, whatever. And so this is one of the topics that we talk about almost every cycle, and providing clarity on it. And the way we tend to talk about it, we talk about three different things because counseling is real big, for them as well, because they're going to be counseling subordinates and so forth and so on. And so within the space of development, you have counseling, coaching, and mentorship, right? And so on a time continuum, counseling is something that when we first connect, when you first join the organization, whatever that looks like, you know, within the first couple of days, I have to give you, your initial counseling. And your initial counseling is all about like building expectations of what the future should look like, what that looks like as far as job performance, what it is you want to accomplish in your life, what the organization expects of you, what I expect of you. And if I'm doing it right, I also ask you certain things, in the midst of that conversation, trying to get a good understanding of what it is that you're expecting to gain while you're here, what it is that you want to do, and if there's anything I can help you with during your transition. And then you have coaching, and coaching is happening in the midst of the here and now. So whatever is going on right now, it's that coach is with them, giving them honest feedback about what they're seeing, asking questions in real time to see if they can kind of jog their mental capacity in the midst of activity. So it's getting them to think about what they're actually doing while they're doing it, and then going back and considering more about that. And then mentorship is more long term. And generally, when we talk about mentorship in an Army perspective, we talk about like, what is it like a younger person, being mentored by an older person, somebody who's already accomplished this, whatever that looks like, and then giving them guidance, along the path of what it is that they want to do. Now, it's a very unique relationship because the mentor does not seek out the mentee seeks out the mentor. So if you are a individual who is looking for a mentor, don't sit around and wait for the mentor to come to you, because that's not how it's supposed to work. You're supposed to go and find your mentor and ask them to be your mentor in that particular moment. Now, moving forward in the modern day times, mentors don't have to be a senior person. It could be a more skilled person in something that you're doing, like Brother Gaddy was just talking about. So I would talk more so of in the IT arena. You have young individuals who are, I mean, when I would say subject matter experts when it comes down to cloud security and all these different aspects of IT. And so you, as a junior person who's just getting started in the field, can actually go and seek mentorship for somebody who's been working in the field 5, 6, 7 years, but have so much experience because they literally started their experience in their teenage years. That's the difference between now and then. Does that mean you can't get a senior individual to be a mentor? No, that's not what that means. If you're doing it right, you probably should have multiple mentors, because at the end of the day, this person is going to mentor you in this arena. This person is going to mentor you in this arena, and this person is going to mentor you in this arena. So it is no doubt a relationship, and a relationship in which the mentee maximizes the time of the mentor. So if the mentor gives you an hour a month, then you need to go into the presence of the mentor with several questions. Like, I got a question about this. How do I do this? And what do you think about doing this? And if you were in my position and you had these opportunities, which one would you have taken if that was you? Right. And then at the end of it, if you run out of questions before time, right, ask for permission to come back at the next time with a whole bunch more questions. Like, do not waste the time of the mentor, because that is probably one of the most valuable opportunities that you'll get from somebody senior. I've talked and said a whole lot. Let me pause and see if these brothers want to jump in and say anything additional.
Well, you jumped because when myself and Gaddy, I was listening over it, I was thinking, man, I left out experience, because I think sometimes, most time, when we think of mentorship, we think of the older person leading the younger person. Whereas, like you said, in today's climate, you may have someone younger, and some of us get stuck in our ways and say, I don't want that young buck teaching me. Well, that young buck has the experience. That young person has the knowledge that you are seeking to attain. So if they have what you need, you got to humble yourself and say, man, let me sit back and learn what it is that I need to know, so that I can grow. Because if growth is where I'm trying to go, then I can't sit up and think that, okay, since this person is age limited, that I can't learn something
I like that you went there because I remember in well, I was about to say I ain't gonna say the year because it was a long time ago, but y'all went through basic before me. So so I remember in 2003, right, going to basic training, and we had this guy, I think he was like almost 40 or he was 40. And we had this young drill sergeant, E5 drill sergeant. He was really young, you know. And so you could see when the E5 was giving us instruction, we all listening, right? We all, most of us fresh out of high school, we listening just like any other drill sergeant because we ain't trying to carry them weapons up that hill back and forth. But here go the old timer. He want to challenge everything that's said by the young drill sergeant. Now you don't know how old the older drill sergeants are. You just know their rank is higher. So you saw that, and he was constantly coming up short when we were doing stuff. And I remember drill sergeant Ray pulled him aside, and drill sergeant, I don't think he wanted everybody here, but drill sergeant Ray, I think he yelled by habit. That's just how he talked. And so as he's talking to him, he's telling him, "Hey, you gonna become a holdover because you're trying to keep away from being taught by this drill sergeant because you can clearly see he's young. We know you got life experience, but do you think that you can teach what he's teaching? Do you have army experience?" He was like, I'm not young. I'm a grown man. I don't need no kid telling me about. He said, all right, good. All right, go ahead and give a block of BRM instructions. He went up there and he didn't know what he was doing. He was stuttering. He was looking around for help, and he said, "Now this is why you're the private, and he's the drill sergeant because he has the experience. He's done this. He's been doing this for 5-6 years. You're just starting out. Now get in ranks, and the next time I hear you, you already know there was some adjectives and stuff added in there. But so when you bringing that up, like I remember that story because I saw it real life. Sometimes you got to know if you don't have the experience. I don't care how old the person is that's teaching you. You're getting instruction from someone that has hands-on experience. So you have
Yeah,
to be teachable.
yeah, absolutely. That is definitely a character trait for the mentee. And you got to get that ego out the way. That's key. That's one of the most important things. I had that very same experience in the army as well, especially when I made Song First Class. And it was interesting because you had individuals when you go to Korea and they try to put you in your organization, your platoons per se for accountability during reception. And it's a whole bunch of staff sergeants, all of us staff sergeants, some buck sergeants, whatever the case may be. And they start asking staff sergeant by time and grade. And I'm modest, but I had a sequence number. And so my partner, he knew about it. And so it was funny because Buddy said, "Yeah, I've been in the army for 18 some odd years." Kind of sounded like the old deacon in the church. And my partner St. Julian said, "Hey, this," and I can't say what he said. He said, "This one right here, he got a sequence number." And it's like, "Hey, somebody got a sequence number?" I was like, "Yeah." "Oh, come here. You the platoon sergeant." I'm like, "Okay." So it's like it's one of those things. Just because you are older does not necessarily mean you can mentor a particular person just virtually by age. Like sometimes what we as the older generation need to understand is that some of these young Thundercats they need to be the mentor for us in certain arenas, especially when you start talking computer-based operations and things of that nature. His divine appointment said mentorship is a relationship in which a more experienced or knowledgeable person, the mentor, provides guidance, advice, support, and feedback to a less experienced person, the mentee. Absolutely. Dr. Lisa Dove Washington, good to see you and welcome. Providing guidance and direction to someone. Absolutely. I agree with that. Lisa Keys says, helping each one discover and exposure to understanding that has not yet been realized. I definitely agree with that. Ms. Verlene McCoy, good to see you and welcome to this evening's show. I got your comment that's coming up here next. Ms. Teresa Austin says, mentorship is someone who teaches and gives help to young people. Ish. I think we're going to unpack a little bit of that, a little bit more here. A mentor is your go-to person when you need help in making decisions in order to gain knowledge and understanding of certain situations. I do like that one as well. Nick D, that's one of those situations where you need to humble yourself and accept the lessons you need. Let go of that ego. Exactly. Oh, hold on. Interestingly enough, some people are mentors without even trying, based on the way they conduct themselves and how they are always willing to share their experiences. I really like that as well, because I think that's pretty much the definition of servant leadership, right? When you're not necessarily trying and you're giving guidance, you're helping, you're making yourself available to others for the sake of their development without looking for anything in return. Absolutely. I do love that. Good to see you, brother. And as always, welcome to the show. If you guys don't remember, retired Sergeant Major Edgar Fuentes, he was probably one of the best interviews I had when I first got started. And I greatly appreciate that. So let's kind of get after this because, this is called the Hearts of Men. So let's get after the hearts of men. Do you believe that mentorship is lacking in our community? And if so, why?
Yes.
Okay.
I ain't need no hesitation on that one.
None whatsoever.
None. Yes, it's lacking. I think the hard part for me is the why. Like, because there's so many things we could discuss on the why, and it's hard trying not to, say this fault, that fault, this fault. But I would say all in all, especially among men, right? Because we're dealing with a generation that I'm noticing they really don't value the experience and the knowledge of, especially now, maybe of them being more knowledgeable because they've been in a field longer. But if you listen to a lot of the things, a lot of young people, not all, but a lot of young people are saying they don't value eldership, and it's almost as if they're being taught that the elders had it wrong, not realizing that it was the elders that built what you have, what you enjoy today. The access to information, all this other stuff was built by a generation before you. So to assume that because you have this, you don't need mentorship is devaluing even what you have at your fingertips. So I think that's a part of it. And then the other side of it for me is we usually say that, fatherhood is frowned upon in today's society, but manhood is frowned upon in today's society. You, there's a lot of people saying with their lips that, we're missing the male figure in the community, but when it shows up, it's not appreciated and is not wanted. I think like when I see an older woman mentoring a younger woman, I don't get involved because I can't mentor that younger woman on womanhood, right? And I think the same thing should go vice versa. And I think we see too much of men trying to get into what the women should be looking like arena, and women getting into what the men's supposed to be looking like, and what we're doing is we're tearing away the fabric of mentorship in our community.
I think culturally we've been taught that by a certain age we should just know. Like, oh, you grown, ain't you? You just supposed to know what to do. You supposed to know how to act. Supposed to know these things. And sometimes as men, we get these things called egos to where when I don't know, I don't want to seem like I don't know. I don't want to put myself out there and have the embarrassment of not knowing because I'm a man and I beat my chest and I'm just supposed to doggone know. And the stigma of asking for help. Sometimes I'm scared to ask for help. I don't want coach to know that I don't know because I sit on these panels, so I'm just supposed to know everything. So if he's a subject matter expert in the area, instead of me going to him, I go to Google. When he's a person that I can get a wealth of knowledge from and have a relationship and pick his brain and not just Google and not have a relationship with someone, but I can learn and grow in that relationship at the same time. And sometimes life obligations where we've had children, we got a job, we have all these things going on. So when it comes to me sitting back asking somebody something, it's like, man, I'll do it tomorrow. And we keep putting it off, and I do it next week and the next week, and tomorrow becomes next year. And then by the time you actually think about it, it's like, man, it's too late. And so we put those things aside.
You was over there destroying that desk. Yeah, I get it. I get it. I agree. Um, and I think that's the obviousness of it. But I think the other side of it is that a lot of the people who should be mentors today don't present themselves as mentors. So if me as a mentee, if I'm supposed to go and seek out my mentor, I'm not necessarily seeing a great flock of men. I'm just being transparent because we're talking about men here. I'm not seeing a great flock of men that I want to learn from, that I want to go to and ask them certain things to kind of help me put these thoughts together in my head so that I can move, in a better position. And again, this goes in conjunction with everything that you said. It's not in opposition. Um, I think that's also one of the issues. Too many of the older generation still trying to perpetrate like they're still in their 20s and 30s, pants sagging and things of that nature. Like, I don't necessarily want to be mentored by somebody who does not present. And again, we can sugarcoat it and say, well, it's not about what you look like. Oh, but if I'm buying it, yeah, absolutely it is. Like, you got to pass the eye test for the individual. The individual needs to be able to see it and they need to be able to hear it, both things. Like, they need to be able to hear what you say and see that the things that you talk about, you're actually living. That's the person that I want to be mentored by. And I think for the most part, society has created a narrative to where it's okay to say a thing and not necessarily live the thing that you say. So why should, if I'm presenting myself to not be trustworthy, why should the younger person come to me and say, "Hey, would you mind mentoring me?" Because I'm hearing what you're saying, and I'm also seeing that you're living the life that you're saying, and I greatly appreciate that, and I want to kind of get my life going in that direction as well. Because remember, mentorship isn't just job focused, right? It's job focused, it's a lifestyle focus, it's financially focused, it's all of these different focuses that you can get a mentor and you can get a mentor for. So when you look at the lack of mentorship in community, like, I think all of these things could be true. I will also add that I think, and I'm just gonna put this out there, y'all can come for me afterwards. I think we believe it's more admirable to mentor outside of our community than it is inside of our community. And I'm going to pause right there and hear what y'all got to say.
I see Rose smiling, so I'll try to let him. No, so I'm with you all the way, both of y'all. I'm with you, and it's like we. Let me not say we. I know too many older folk that are trying to stay relevant, and that is a crime to our community. Really trying to stay relevant to the young people. Like, I say this all the time jokingly, but I'm so serious. Like, I know a dude 40 something years old, and when I see him on social media talking about you ain't pressure, what? Sit down. Trying to sound like these 20 years. You look stupid with your gray beard talking about pressure. The only pressure you have should be whether or not you're gonna go get that checkup or not. Like, sit down and become a mentor. But how can I go to you as a mentor when you're trying to present yourself as an equal? So now, by just by the nature of that, I see is blood pressure, exactly. But just by the nature of seeing you, I see you as an equal. So I see me higher than I ought to see myself, because you look like me, you sound like me, you're trying to act like me, versus versus just being yourself, being who you knew when I was growing up in the 90s. You knew who the old timers were. You saw by the slacks and you saw by the hat. They didn't wear the same kind of hat. Like, I grew up in the 90s because I've refused to bend my hat. I'm not gonna bend it. I'm sorry, you know. But that's that's my generation. So when they see that people see me with my fitteds, even when I wear fitteds with suits. That's a New York thing, right? And so when people see me, they say, "Man, that's how I know you. That's how I know you old. You born in the 70s, 80s." First of all, that's not old. Your mama. Secondly, uh, yes, they can identify, because I'm not trying to look like them. I'm not walking around here and they're skinny. And even though I grew up in the baggy jean era, I think that does look unprofessional, and it does not give off teacher, leader. It gives off he's still in them streets. So I pulled my pants up. I bought me some belts. I learned how to keep my as the old folks used to say, keep my bridges around my waist. you know, yeah, your bridges. That's how you know you had old folk around you. But I don't know that presentation. Like I don't think older folks should be trying to stay relevant with young folk.
I don't think it's about presentation as much. I mean, that's some of it, but just because you wear creases in your pants don't mean you can teach me something other than how to crease my pants. I think that sometimes we look at people and say, "Man, I want what they have," and not knowing if they actually have what you want. You just see the person outwardly, and it could be a younger person. You can have your hat on backwards and all this other stuff, but if you have a knowledge that I'm trying to attain and I don't have it, you can teach me something. Like my kids, when it comes to like these phones and all these devices and computers and stuff, I go to my kids. My kids mentor me on that stuff because I can send emails, I can turn it on, and all that other stuff. But when it comes to the knowledge of it and what it can do, like I'm in the Apple, I got all this technology. My daughter always says, "You don't even use it to its full capability," and that's true because I don't know how. And sometimes it's instead of me sitting back saying, "Well, teach me this," I'm looking at it like I don't want to do it. I don't want to learn because it requires me to be open and honest about where I am and where I'm not. And when I do that, it shows a lack in me, and I'm supposed to be the man.
So I like that. I like that. And so I guess just for clarity, are we saying we will ignore or accept the message based on the appearance of the messenger? No. Okay.
No, but can I carry on that though? Yes, the answer is no. But that's once I get to know you, got the information. Once I know you got what I'm looking for. But if I'm going out seeking my mentor, I'm not going out seeking the mentor that's trying to be that looks like he's trying to look like me. It looks like he's trying to be like me. Uh even in the military. When I came in the military, NCOs creased their uniforms. Yeah, then y- on the surface, all they could teach me is creasing my uniform, but they're teaching me how to appear as at a standard, right? So yes, they could teach me that, but that's what's gonna attract me at first, right? But now if I get to know y'all, right, I know Roland, I know Coach. If I don't care what they wear, I know that they got information that I need because I know them. That relationship was built there beforehand. But if going out looking for my mentor, I'm not saying the appearance means you got the information, but I'm I'm saying for me, I'm not seeking for you if you're not presented as what you say.
Yeah, I get that. Hey, I just started a poll in the chats. If you're on YouTube, check it out. The question is, which is more of a detriment to mentorship, appearance, behavior, or possessions? Again, if you'll be so kindly to take that poll, because I'm curious just to see what the feedback is. Let me catch some of these comments before we move forward. Nick D said, yes, some of it's due to the lack of respect for the older, more experienced generation. I have seen that. Yes, because one cannot teach what they've never had exposure to. Miss Novella, good to see you and welcome. It's lacking greatly because these latter generations don't want to be taught, but at the same time, our men are not really available. I get that as well. Another reason is what we just discussed, which is sometimes the old heads need to sit back and let the young heads teach them something. Mentorship does not have an age. This is for males and females. Miss Verlene McCoy, again, good to see you. Yes, why? Because they are not able to accept that they don't know certain things and that they are not eager to learn. I love that. And our brother here, he says, I believe that nowadays people can get information at lightning speed about any topic, chat, GPT, Google, Gemini, etc. I am heavily involved in mentoring senior leaders and youth via volunteering in local boxing gyms, baseball leagues, etc. We are out here, just need to just need to be creative to stay involved. I do like that as well. I think another thing to go along with that is that I think, like you said, we're out here. But by that same token, I don't think a lot of times we feel, I don't think a lot of times we make ourselves as available. No one knows you're out here. Like you're only traveling small, small circles or whatever the case may be. So if people knew that more mentors would be available, if people knew that more mentors would be open to accepting mentorship, then I think that'll be one thing. Roland, look like you got something you want to add. Okay, gotcha. Let me see. Young brother Christian Barrow. I feel like mentorship is lacking in the community by not having the resources or the ones before us set a standard that gives off an incorrect impression of a mentor should be. Yep, I agree with that as well. Um, so yeah, I think we're unpacking some things. And again, make sure that you give us your thoughts in the polls. Gentlemen, again, hearts of men. When was the last time in your younger years? We're not talking about who you are right now. When was the last time you felt truly guided by another man? Not judged, not fixed, but genuinely supported. And how did that moment change you?
I'm gonna give two. One of them you were involved with. Yeah, you,
Oh, okay.
Coach. When me and Coach, we were young staff sergeants in the military, and we in the day room when we sent them soldiers to work. We in the day room playing Madden.
Getting it in.
Yeah, we playing Madden, and it was the disappointment that came from the first sergeant about what the expectations of us were.
Yep.
That was like, oh, that stuck with me.
Yeah.
I was like, dang. And that changed how I move. I'm like, okay, I can't do that here. This is work. And another is with Command Sergeant Major Fuentes, where he showed support for me in a time where I was wrong as two left shoes in a certain instance, but he was still supporting me and helping me through the situation. And that said, man, and to me, it was like, man, my actions are letting people that I look up to down. And that was like a smack in the mouth for me. And it made me have to change how I move.
Yeah, I like that. Shout out to retired Sergeant Major Lee Malloy. That was our first sergeant during that time. I felt that sting, bro. You right about that, brother. Gaddy, what you got?
Man, so you said the last time. So the last time would have to be first sergeant Stewart. When I was a young soldier. Now I was the only 42 in my unit at a point because when I got there, the corporal made sergeant in PCS, the specialist ETS, and it was just me trying to figure it out, not knowing what I was doing. Old PFC Gaddy messing stuff up. And first sergeant Stewart, he was ready. He was ready to get rid of me. He was like, he don't know what he's doing. He's not adapting to the job. Blah. And of course, another drill sergeant said something. They was like, "Listen, we're all chaplain assistants, so he don't really have a 42 to guide him here in the unit, and we don't really get 42s to stick around, and we got one that wants to stay in and stick around." So, she kind of advocated for me. But first sergeant Stewart, from that point on, he kind of took me and he brought me over to his house, one time, and we was just sitting there. He was like, he said, "You know what this is?" I was like, dining room table? He said, "No, this is a place where a family can meet." He said, "When you get a family, you get a house, you get a dining room table. You don't never lack on the dining." I was like, "What about a couch or a bedroom set?" He said, "Yeah, you're going to get that. Everybody gets that." He said, "But make sure you have a place to where y'all can sit down as a family and talk. Even if it's just you and the wife, you have some place y'all can sit and talk about this is your meeting place. This is where we eat together. This is where we come together. This is our fellowship space." So it was just like little things like that. He would it and that's why I love when I think his divine said, she mentioned earlier about feedback. Like, yeah, the chat GPT, all that information at your fingertips, that's good. But to have somebody explain to you why we do a thing, why do I have a thing? It makes the difference, because now we're not just misusing it. We don't just have it to show off. We know why we have it, what purpose it serves, and then we grow from there. What's up, brother?
Yeah, I love all of that. So that was definitely one for me as well, Roland. I think I've had several, but I think one of the ones that stuck with me the longest, and it was shortly after that. Not well, yeah, right around that time frame, a little later though. Um, Tony Majors, and you guys who's been here before, you've seen Tony Majors on here. You guys who's been served with me, Roland, you met Tony. Um, I didn't like him. Like I literally told him that. Like as we got older, like I didn't really like him, because when he took over as being my platoon sergeant, it's like nothing I could do was right. But here's the beauty of it: he's seen something. He shared with me later. He's seen something that I wasn't catching. I was a little, I was smelling myself a little bit. I call a spade a spade, and so he had this wall up, and it was almost impenetrable. And then as time progressed, he took me to lunch, and we sat down and we talked. And in that conversation, we just talk heart to heart, man to man, soldier to soldier, in that order. And I think that made a huge difference for me, because I think you guys remember me telling you I never had that. I never had that in all of my years. Like somebody is telling me something that they see in me, but yet that thing is being shielded because of what I have before me. And so that thing that I have before me is presenting the thing that's in me from coming out. And when we had that conversation, man, it just kind of stuck with me. And it literally carried me through my entire military career. And me and Tony, we don't talk every day. We don't talk often, but when we do talk, it's almost like, catching up, and all that great stuff. So I think for me, that was genuine, because he was the one I went to Iraq with, OF1. And when we came back, and I told him this on that show, he said, "Look, you guys went to war. You guys came back. You guys did your job." He said, "I have nothing else to teach you." And I told him I felt like we were breaking up. Like I wasn't, you know what I'm saying? I felt like it was a breakup. Like what's going on right now? I don't understand this. But I think that's the relationship that you develop with a mentor. Like that mentor pours into you and builds you and help you, not telling you what to do. Like Sergeant Major for instance was saying, not necessarily telling you what to do, but giving you the why behind what you're doing, helping you to kind of plot the course in your mind and telling you, okay, well, look out for this and consider this and have you thought about this as well, right? Me asking questions, like a lot of questions. I think I used to get on his nerves sometimes. I used to ask so many questions, but then him being okay with the questions. Of course, we used to joke around a lot as well, but him being okay with the questions to such a degree that he provided so much value in the answers that he gave me. Now, don't get me wrong. He would tighten the screws even after the mentorships relationship started. He would tighten the screws where they needed to, but then when he tightened the screws, then I felt like I disappointed him, so he had to tighten the screws, kind of like Roland was saying. So that would be my addition to that. Any other thoughts as it pertains to this particular question? Because I think this conversation is amazing so far. Nope, good to go. Brother Gad, you good to go?
I'm good.
Okay, so there's a myth, right? And I believe it to be a true thing. It's almost like mentorship is often seen as a top down, age based hierarchy, which ultimately leads to more of the things that we talked about previously. But research shows that peer mentors, like same age allies sharing skills and struggles, reduce shame and normalize vulnerabilities in the space of just growth and development. So the question that I ask is, why do we wait for perfect mentors to appear instead of intentionally building relationship with peers who share our struggles and strengths?
I know in our culture, whether that's military or whatever, we always want to seem like we. You remember with us, it was a bunch of E6s. So we all wanted to seem like we had it all together. And I'd rather learn from somebody away from here than us get together and actually, hey, let's practice this thing so we can learn it together and grow together. But I think those people that came before us, the McDaniels, the Fuenteses, and the Majors, and those guys kind of showed us, like, dude, y'all gonna need each other because we saw them how they moved, and it was like, man, because it was a shock. It was a shock to me. I'm like, man, these brothers actually stick together. They handle their business, and it showed us a way to where it was like, okay, we're looking at them. So I think when it comes to waiting for the perfect, I think younger me waited for the perfect. I would be like, okay, let me see who I can. Let me see what I can get from this one. And I'm waiting and seeing and I'm looking instead of going and saying, man, let me walk alongside and see where I'm going, and not just because as I'm looking for what's right, I'm also looking for what's wrong. So now I'm sitting back and I'm in the bird's nest just watching instead of actually putting my hands to something. I think when you put your hands to something and you walk along someone, and that's how I do with my son-in-law. My son-in-law, I let him see me. And as he sees me and see, hey, I'm the same person. And I'm not just here when you with my daughter, when you around her. I'm there for you as a man, as a husband, as a whatever, that you can come and talk. We can talk. We can talk about nothing. We can talk about her, whatever. It's not, I'm not choosing her side because she's my kid. So I think that we we tend to look for those people that seem perfect because we don't want to show our imperfections.
I get that. I also think sometime in our lives, before we fully understood the flaw of man, we saw somebody that we thought had it, right? Whether you saw this NCO, you didn't know the NCO from a hole in the wall, but he looked like he got it. And so now when it comes time and you're like, I need a mentor, someone that I can model after, you start trying to look for that image of perfection, whoever that person was. I need somebody that's like this person because they this, and this, you know. And that causes us sometimes to wait. Uh, just kind of like how we talk about when we talk about how people get their images of relationship and marriages from TV screens and social medias. You see that image of perfection, and so you want that image of perfection, not understanding that it looks perfect when it's put together, but when you dig into it, there's some things that they're ironing out as well. You know, so I look at it like that, and I think that I want to caution anyone who may think that way, because when that person lets you down, it's almost as if good don't exist no more to you. It's hard to swallow. It's hard to look for another mentor. It's hard to stay on course, because why stay on course if they're just going to mess up anyway? Because you're trying to hold someone on a pedestal they don't belong on. Take my thing is this: they're in the direction, or they're where I'm trying to go. They're not going to be perfect, but they got the information that you're looking for. And if they accept you, pray and Godspeed.
I like all of this. I think twofold. Number one, no one ever teaches for the most part, and it happens more so now than it did in the yesteryears, right? No one really teaches that a mentor can be a peer. No one ever taught, like, if you were fortunate enough to be raised in a household to where you had a sibling, like a brother, sister, whatever that looks like. A lot of times the siblings fight one another, like especially sisters and brothers, right? But if you had an older brother, at some point, ideally, we would think the older brother would be a mentor to the younger brother for the sake of the family. But I mean, outside of that dynamic, I don't think we necessarily talk about that enough. I don't think we teach that enough to where we can be mentors to each other for the sake of familial development, relationship development, and all kind of things of that nature. So we have this image, kind of like what Gaddy said, of what mentorship looks like. And a lot of that, to Gaddy's point, is created by what we see on TV. We see, you know, and I use this phrase, we see the senior male with the white hair and the power tie and the power suit driving the fancy sports car, and then you have the young college graduate who goes to that person and sit down and talk to them to get, educated and developed and things of that nature. And then we believe that that's what mentorship looks like. Only it can only look like that. I have to have an individual that's gray haired, nice car, power suit, power tie, have accomplished all of these things, because all of this is the total package of what mentorship looks like. And I think that's one of the things that has stifled the concept of mentorship. Now, if you're fortunate enough to work in an environment to where they train mentors, they teach people to be mentors and things of that nature, then you were one of the fortunate ones that were able to bypass that facade of mentorship. But I also believe that when it comes down to just simply simple family dynamics, uncles can be mentors, brothers can be mentors, all the things, aunts can be mentors as well. So we miss the valuable information that we can gain from one another just by simply sitting down and having said conversations that move us positively in the direction that we should be going. And that kind of gets after what articulated illustrations. Good to see you, brother, and welcome to the show. That's my boy, uh, Mr. Radio Voice himself, Dwayne Dwayne Richardson. Real good stuff. I dealt with issues I probably wouldn't have had to if I had a positive male figure, but only if they gave me advice and I applied it. So thank you for sharing that, and I greatly appreciate that. I kind of want to grab his comment and put it in there before I kind of turn it back over to see what you guys had to add to it as well.
I think I like where retired man Sarah Majors Fuentes went, because I know what it's like to fail. And I know what it's like to be a failure, where I'm living in that, and to come from up under it. And when you can come up from under something, I can teach you how to avoid this. I can speak to these things because I've done them. I've done all the dumb things. So people looking for perfect people to show you how to be perfect, you got to look for somebody that has failed. You got to look for somebody that has failed numerous times and has come from up under those things and learn the lesson, not just continue to fail, but learn the lesson from those things. And now they have that ability to actually instill in you some lessons learned. Because when you get that lesson learned, like, okay, I don't want to do that. Because people always think, oh man, I want what you drive. I want what you this. I want what, you don't know how I got it. You don't know what it took for me to gain this. So instead of looking for what I have, talk to me and learn about me and what it took for me to get where I am.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Gaddy, you have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, because I was looking at the same comment, but just only thing that I would personally look at a little bit different is not necessarily teach you how to avoid the failures or the mistakes, but teach you how to get through those failures or those mistakes. Because I think some not all, but I think some of our failures were necessary because there is a practical experience that we have to get out of there, right? So that this way I can begin to walk without you. Because when you're not there and I hit that snag because you allowed me to avoid it, then when I didn't avoid it or when I made the mistake, now how do I get through it? And just like he said there are valuable lessons that he learned in those failures. Like when I was coaching the kids downtown or for the city, he had those hothead kids who I know everything about basketball, you know, and I let them do. You want to play one-on-one ISO ball? All right, let's see how that look. I didn't stop him. I wanted to stop him, but I let him do it, and he started getting mad. They're fouling me. They're not fouling you. They're closing you off because they know you're not going to pass the ball. But you needed to see you can't beat 5 people by yourself. Now pass the ball. You got a double team. Your man is open. Kick it out. Let him take the shot. Trust him. But it was something he wasn't getting from me just saying pass the ball, because he didn't understand that there's pressure that's coming to you when they know you're not going to pass. And sometimes you need to see that this thing is going to come if you don't do this right. So when I see you make that mistake, I'll let you make it. So now I'll walk you through how to fix it and how to get through it. So now you have more of a hands-on understanding. That's why I told you to follow these steps.
And see, I think that goes back to the notion of the perfect mentor, right? Because when you see this person who's done all these great and wonderful things and have all these devices and toys that they have acquired over the years, you think that their pathway to success was pretty much flawless. Like you believe that they didn't do anything. And I'm that person. I would tell you, like, you need to, like, your pathway to through success, kind of like going back to what was previously said, your pathway through success is going to go through countless bouts of failure. So if you haven't failed enough and you're trying to steer clear of the failure mentality or the anti-failure thing, or you're afraid to fail at something, then you're also afraid to be successful at anything. And I think that's the key. Like the perfect mentor, going back to that notion, it is a facade. It is a false thing. It doesn't exist. Everybody who's accomplished anything failed multiple times to get there. The key is that mentor, whether it's a peer mentor, whether it's an older male or female that can help you in that. I think one of the most valuable things that they can give you is that you have to change your perspective of failure. You have to change your perspective of failure. You need to change your perception in failure. Once you do that, then you can recognize a couple of things. Number one, the gateway to success is multiple failures. That's it. Now, we're not saying you're going out there and intentionally fail. That's lunacy. But we're saying that you have to put forth the practical knowledge that you gain in order to learn what experience is going to teach you in that moment. That requires failure. Then, when you're in the midst of not necessarily achieving a thing at the level that you want to achieve it, what are you learning about yourself in the midst of that? So those are some of the most valuable things that we can actually gain from a mentor when it comes down to, dealing with failure, understanding, that we can learn. I think, like Nick D said, we can learn from anybody. Yeah, we just got to kind of erase that mentality. So I greatly appreciate all of that. And I greatly appreciate what everybody is saying in the chat. Listen, I greatly appreciate what you guys are doing in the chat, contributing to the channel. We appreciate that immensely, more than you ever know. Just so that you guys can know, any donations that come to this channel is actually forked right back over into the channel, so that ain't nobody out here driving no Cadillacs off of the donation. So I just want to make sure I say that. So let's kind of press forward here, because I think it's important. The silent tax of Stoicism. Now, Stoicism has been talked about immensely over the past few years. A standard study links men's reluctance to speak guidance to a $2.3 trillion annual loss in workplace errors, burnout, and turnovers. Now, I don't necessarily know the validity behind that statistic and how did they come up with it, but I'm sure it was some metric that went into it. So, how has the belief that real men handle things alone caused fractured families? And how does this belief keep fathers, son, and grandfathers emotionally distant?
I feel like a part of the answer is in the question for me. Like, how does the belief that real men handle things alone? I'm gonna rephrase. The belief that real men handle things alone has caused fractures in families by causing fathers and sons and grandfathers to emotionally become distant. Um, because this idea that I don't need help, I don't need someone to talk to, I don't need a corner, you know, and it's almost the idea that if I could call for help, I'm crying and I'm not a man. We have to get past that notion, right? Uh, because if you could do everything alone, there's no need for community, right? There's no need for team building. There's no, well, just handle it alone. Then do it. And most of us, that there are some things that we have been able to handle alone, and you burn out, like you brought up. You get tired, and then when it comes to a boiling point, you become emotional, not even distant, emotionally non-existent, because you have now shut down. And I think sometimes we create this narrative of ourselves that we got it, that I don't need help, I don't need you to stand beside me, to stand next to me, whatever. I got this. I'm me. I'm me all man. And then what that causes is we've created an environment to where the people around us believe we don't need them to come help. We don't need them to come check on us. We don't need them to ask if we're okay. And now we become bitter at them for not asking the things we've conditioned them to not ask.
Man, you broke down this stoicism thing. I think when you are told from a young age, boys don't cry, men don't cry, suck it up, push through it. You learn to be stoic. You learn to suppress the pain, suppress your feelings because it's like, okay, what they gonna do if I do tell them? You get that mentality that like there's no help for me. If I do, I get ridiculed. I will receive nothing of upliftment. So uh, I think that when we look at how men are taught versus how women are taught, we see how we continue to put all those weights and inside our minds, and we don't see therapy, and we have stigmas about what's therapeutic to us. Oh, we want to go and beat on the heavy bag, or we want to do this. I think that this is a topic that needs to be had in conjunction with mentorship, in conjunction with mental therapy, because it's not just, I think we need to isolate some of these topics and actually deal with them so that we can, as men, as women, as people who deal with the everyday rigors of life, we can make sure that we help one another because I should be able to see, I should be able to notice a change in Dwayne, a change in Gaddy. I should be if we have a closeness in relationship, and I can't just say, okay, that's him being him. No, I need to reach out. But if that person doesn't reach out to me, I can't say, well, they should have reached out to me. I think we need a closer community to where we can learn one another so much that I notice small differences where I say, man, hey, do you need to talk? And if they need to talk, I don't just come with a bunch of answers to their talk. I let them talk. I let them work that out. I let them communicate with me and find out what they need. Because I think we always say your feelings are your responsibility, and I truly believe it. Your feelings, but I think sometimes we confuse feelings and emotions, where men have thought that now I don't have emotion. I'm emotionless because I don't have no feelings. No, you have feelings. You just suppressed them, and now you've conflated both the two together, and now you have neither. And it's just you just waiting to boil up to where you are like that pot, just that little pot that you turn the knob and the little crock pot thing, and just waiting to I don't know if you can say that on here, but you know what I'm saying.
Pressure
Boom.
bust pipes. Gotcha. Pressure bust pipes. There you go. I'm agreeing with everything you guys are saying. Like I'm all of that's within my line of thinking. Um, there has been a narrative that I think it was Sister Nadella who said it goes like far back, way so far back that it's very difficult to trace. Um, but we can trace it back to our childhood, and it was created early then. And we joke about this and we talk about it, and I'm gonna keep saying it because I want us to understand how it began. And I'm not saying that this is the beginning of it, but I'm also saying that this is part of it. Because there was a little song that we all sang that little girls are sugar and spice and everything nice, and little boys are frogs and snails and puppy dog tails. And going back to your point about stop crying, brush the dirt off, stuff like that, and getting to the point to where you know no one should see you cry. And then you get to the point to where it's like, well, to be a man, you fix problems. That's what you do. Men provide and protect. That's it. That's all we do. There's this narrative that men provide and protect. So there ain't no crying and providing, and ain't no crying, and you shouldn't be crying when you're protecting. Like you gotta man up. Right? All of these different things that exist out there that creates the psyche of a man. And I think it's interesting. Me and my dad had a great conversation the other day, and I shared with you guys on Sunday. Um, we had a great conversation the other day, and we talked about a lot of those things and how it literally trickles down from generation to generation to generation. And it's one of those things to where that belief system that is created in your mind, whether it's given to you by your dad or given to you by the absence of your dad and given to you by your mom, who is acting, just as the parent doing the best they can in that particular moment. Well, it ultimately creates like what I tend to call a fraction of a man. You are emotionally distant. You don't, share in your emotions. You don't talk about the things that you weren't successful at. You don't share with your kids some of your failures and things of that nature so that they understand that failure isn't a bad thing. It's a thing that actually happens because the school system creates a mindset that failure is not good. And so as you continue on these things, like kids need to be able to have a conversation with their dad, knowing that their dad is human, not robotic. Like if they grow up thinking that the dad has done everything perfect in their life, well, that's a false narrative, and it's a bridge too far for them to cross. So it's like now that belief system becomes a behavior, and that behavior results in what you can have. And what you have at that particular point is a disjointed relationship with reality and a disjointed relationship with your children and your siblings as well, especially if they're girls. Now, when we look at fathers, grandfathers, and sons, now we're talking the cycle of behavior. Because in essence, what this person knew, they taught from the well of what they knew, but if they never knew anything outside of that, they can't teach it. So now this becomes injected into the father from the grandfather. And if the father don't go out and seek more information, then this becomes what they inject in their son. So in essence, it is a succession of fractured relationships, and you can literally take a step back and look at generations, generations and generations in the family and see it. And so what we have to do, we have to be cognizant of these things. We have to be honest with ourselves and honest with our situations. If we're not honest with ourselves about our situations, then we're not going to do anything to change it. And the emotionally distant man, the emotionally distant father, the emotionally distant son does not have what's the word I'm looking for? They don't have that depth of relationship that is possible, that's available with their fathers, with their sons, with their grandsons, simply because that child, as they're growing up, they want to express some of the things that they're dealing with. They want to express some of the emotional hurt that they, experienced when their girlfriend broke up with them. Don't tell them that, oh, son, we all go through that. Well, I got that part. But, listen, like Roland says, just listen wholeheartedly to what they're sharing. And then maybe once you hear wholly, then maybe you can share what it was like when your first girlfriend broke up with you. So now they can see, oh, well, you had one. Yeah, I did as well. And so now we can talk about what that feels like, and then we can move forward together. Go ahead, Rolly. Look like you had something else.
No, I think I was just gonna say that sometimes we tie our emotions to everything. So when something happens, or when I'm like, if we have a talk, I don't have to get up here. I don't
Mhm.
have to get all puffed up. See, I think whenever I see somebody get puffed up, I'm like, okay, their emotions are tied to what they're talking about too much, to where now your emotions are in charge and you aren't. And I think a lot of our men don't know how to navigate that. They don't know how to take their emotions out of it. Like, okay, if we're talking about cars, just because you like a different car, I don't have to get hype about it. Just because you have a different team, I don't. This is not fighting. We're not about to fight over this. But now we have people who, when you dislike what they like, or when you go against what they perceive to be right, they want to get puffed up because they aren't emotionally intelligent. And some of us think we're emotionally intelligent, but we aren't. We just know how to hold our tongue better because you can see it in our faces, in our expressions, and our behaviors, and the passive aggressiveness and such. So I think that we all need to continue to work on ourselves so that we can, one, relinquish the emotions to do what they're supposed to do, and you can navigate your feelings and separate them from your emotions and actually articulate how you are seeing what you're seeing.
Yeah. Great, Getter.
I'm looking at this and I'm like, where did this stoic behavior come from in our community? And I just started thinking about like when my mother died, I had to be not stoic, but I had to be a little stronger so my sister could lean on me, so my aunt can lean on me, um, because it was a rough time for the family. My mother passed. Uh, my father passed. Of course, all of the boys held this face up because that was what he taught us. That's how he taught us to be. To be strong, and a part of being strong was not show weakness. He didn't say not show emotion. He said not show weakness, right? Showing strength. So we did that, but we all went back to the house. We talked. We ain't cried, but we did our version of crying as Gaddy men. We actually talked about how we felt, and that's not something that we were used to doing with each other. So that was progression to me. But I go back and because it goes back to this why thing that we talked about earlier. It was the why do we where did this come from? Why do we do it? And then it should tell us whether we should still be like that. And at least in our community, just think about what our fathers went through. My father was born in the 40s. Think about what he went through before he went to Nam, when he came back from Nam, civil rights era. He had to grow up through all it and go through all of that. And there was that expectation that the men couldn't show that weakness because the family needed to lean on his strength because of what the community was going through as a whole. you know so now the question is, why are we doing it today? What are we shielding, what are we holding strength for, to so that our family can come back and cry about what? Because your daughter first boyfriend broke up with her. All right, that's the major problems today. Somebody bullied me on social media. And we grew up differently. Like the first time somebody told me, I heard about somebody doing something crazy because somebody bullied them on social media. My first reaction was press the off button. Like, we got bullied. We couldn't press the off button, and you couldn't run either. You had to face that bully. You bullying me on the internet, I'm just gonna log off, right? But I get it. That's their reality is different. But why does that cause us to hold on to this stoic position? It doesn't really serve. I don't see how it really serves a purpose to be that stoic. Now, there's a difference between being stoic and being the word. Here go that word that became a trigger word. Being emotionally intelligent, knowing when to and when not to. Knowing, and even though I have a feeling, don't mean that I need to allow that feeling to be the guiding my guide through this course of action of what needs to happen, because sometimes my emotions, my heart will lead me wrong. So I think that's different than being stoic. Feel, have that emotion, but know how to hold what you got. Know how to still think level headedly so you can get something done, so you can get the family taken care of.
Right. So, and again, it's not that stoicism is bad, right? Understanding what stoicism is, it's not bad. It's like understanding when, like said right here, understanding when to be stoic and when to be express emotions, understanding what emotions are, understanding what they're telling you in that particular moment, and understanding how to use them. I think those are the things that we're lacking and missing in our community. Like no one, and this is one of the things this was one of the conversations I had, with my dad the other day. Like no one teaches that. Like we're not teaching that in the family setting. Like this would be a great opportunity for mentorship within our community, well, within our families first, and then within our community, helping the entire family to understand emotions. But then again, here we go with the age thing, right? If a younger person has a better understanding of emotions, then what would generally be the feedback from like the seniors in the family? Oh, I'm set in my ways. I'm too beyond that. I'm not going to do all that and all that other great stuff. So I think all of those things become part of the problem. How do we get this, like we said, how do we get it to change? How do we transition? And when we put forth the energy and effort to actually do that, I think we may start to see things differently. Man, time is not holding up. Listen, we greatly appreciate you guys. Make sure that you have not already. Make sure that you hit that like button. And again, it might be a little too late to share, but share it. They can watch the replay, and I think it will be value added. Okay, elderhood in exile. Men over 60 report feeling purposeless post retirement, yet 73 want to mentor younger men. Ageism and tech gaps block connection. So, that being said, why is it assumed that older men have nothing to offer or that their experiences are irrelevant? Or is it?
I don't. Go ahead, Gab.
No, you good.
But I don't know if it. I think it's situational because I think that for me, I can learn from anybody, older, younger, whatever. But when I see older men, sometimes I want to know their story. I want to know, okay, what got you to where you are? Even if you aren't where some people may think you are, you have a story. You have something that I can learn from. Like even if it's what not to do or how not to move, you have a story. So I think we assume older men have nothing to offer or nothing to add to us because we think that was for back then. Oh, that was when they were driving the Model T or whatever. When like, or because they aren't current with the vernacular, they aren't current with the technology. I think we sometimes assume that they can't add any value to us, but they may have life lessons that they've gone through that be beneficial in our path, even with a greater knowledge and understanding of technology and things of that nature.
So, did you always have that mentality though?
No, heck,
Okay. What's the difference between, if you don't mind me asking, what's the difference between now and then?
I grew older. I got some of this white hair. I did some of them dumb things, and I watched younger people that I saw like, dang, they moving the same way I used to move.
Yeah.
Like then I'm using those. It's more than one way to skin a cat, or I'm using that old term that was used to me when I thought I knew it all, and I knew that their delivery, the people when I was coming up and they would tell me things, they would just have some little catchphrase of whatever, but I never felt that they really cared. It was like, okay, yeah, you got a catchphrase because I'm about to bump my head, but I don't see you reaching in here to say, "Hey, young blood, let me pull your coattail. Let me talk to you. Let me help you along the way because I see where you're going, and
Yeah.
it's not where you want to be."
Yeah. You're not gonna write a check your backside can't cash. Go ahead, Gaddy. What you got?
Um, yeah. So everything Rose said, but also when I think about when I was young, we looked at middle-aged guys as the mentors, right? Because you use the word older men, and I'm not saying older just means old, that you got to be, barely able to walk. But I'm just saying, but we looked at guys my age more so as like the ones that were working, that were doing everything. They were the guys we were looking at, and the older guys we looked at old people as fools. And I don't know where that came from, but we did, you know, like you old and you living in the same condition I'm living in. What you teaching me? Like, and and it came from ignorance on our behalf, right? But I don't really know where that mindset came from. But I do know that today, sometimes I think as adults, as older adults, we try to make young people respect our age, respect our position as older than them. When I look at some of these 20-year-olds, 22-year-olds, I'm like, man, you were born in 2000, you 22, you was born in 2003, and I was coming in the army. And in their mind, they're like, so, because they think that I'm taking a jab at them, that I'm trying to make sure they understand that they're beneath me because I was an adult already while they were being born. But that's not that that's just me being in shock of how much time has gone past, because I don't feel like I'm creeping on. I don't know what 40 feels like. I'll tell you in another year. But but and I don't feel like I'm creeping up on 40. But at the same time, I didn't think that at 40, kids being born when I was 20 was gonna be 20. But I mean, that's how math work, right? But and so that's, but I think in their mind, they're used to people trying to put them down because of their youth. And so because of that, they have this they may have this desire to feel like, well, I got to show them I know better. I got to show them we could do better. I got to show them that I'm not a young, I'm not a little boy, I'm not this, I'm whatever. And guess what? Some of these young cats, they're coming out of high school with some of these tech certifications. They getting these jobs. Some of these young cats, they're getting on social media, bringing in money we couldn't think about at that age. You know, and so in their mind, they've they've cracked the code to success. They get on social media, make a dope beat or make a dope skit, go viral, cut a check. Rinse and repeat. And so I think there's a lot of things that comes to play. Like, it's not just one thing, but that's what was on my mind.
I I get that. And so for me, this question I struggle with, um, because I don't think. Okay, so let me back up, and I asked Roland that question intentionally because um, I'm agreeing wholeheartedly with him. Like, absolutely, I believe older men have value. When I was younger, I mean, younger, like nah, not so much. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm stuck in the time. Like, I'm the young, I'm the new kid on the block. We are things have changed. It's not what it used to be back in your era. It ain't like that no more. It's different now. Things are different now, and so I think that's what we really believe. But yet, I'm gonna go to exactly where you ended off at because the understanding of success is tied to a dollar bill. Therefore, if the older man, that goes back to what I was saying, the power suit, the power tie, the sports car, the gray hair, right? If I don't see in them the dollar bill, then in my mind, what can they offer me at a younger age? So I think the why is wrapped around teaching younger individuals that money is simply a resource. It's not the source of your identity. It doesn't make you a better person. It doesn't do any of those things. It is simply a resource. But when we don't teach that at a younger age, then at a younger age, we're full of that p word and vinegar. And so at the end of the day, what we do is we start writing people off because I don't see how they put themselves in my future. I don't see how they can add value to what I got going on. And so I think a lot of that, and I think it's probably more so. I don't know if it holds the same as with women, but more so with men. I think most men, not all men, I think most men kind of share in that story. Because at the end of the day, we look at certain things, we struggle with certain things, we don't necessarily have an understanding of certain things. And so in the beginning, how can I do this and how can I do this and how can I make more money and this, that, and third. Well, you ain't even graduated high school yet. You're still trying to figure all these things out. So I think that's one of the biggest pieces there. We value money and people who appear to have it. And if my people didn't appear to have it, then what their information maybe still it might be good information, but it's not good information for me. I appreciate you sharing that, but at the end of the day, now I'm going this direction because that's the direction in which I move. That's why I mentioned the power suit, the power tie, and the sports car because that person looks like money, and I can learn from that person. And I think that's a lot of the reason why it's assumed that men have nothing to offer. Just my opinion, though. I didn't write the book on it, but that's what I really believe based upon a lot of the conversations that I have and my own life experiences because I do recall being in in that arena. I used to hate going to my grandfather's house. I hated it. I mean, I didn't even like the way it smelled. But at the end of the day, I would pay money to go back in time and sit down and talk to them now. My great grandfather, not my grandfather. So that's kind of like my point. So last question, and then I that this question should lead us into um, this question should lead us into our final thought. Mentorship as muscle memory. We kind of talked about what mentorship looks like. We talked about different arenas where mentorship can be of value. Should we focus on individual mentorship? I'm sorry, should we focus on individual mentorship when so much of life's wisdom comes from collective experiences? And I know it's a yes or no question, but please expound.
Focus on. I think that's situational. I think it could go both ways, but I think we should have someone that we are mentoring, that we are trying to lead, trying to, because you can't have that same connection with a group of people, but I can have some ones and twos that's gonna listen, that's gonna sit up and say, man, I'm gonna go ahead, like them those guys that call me they I used to take it like, dog, I ain't old. Then I realized that, yeah, I am old. So when they call me Unc, it's a badge of honor, because when they call me Unc, I'm expecting you to listen to what Unc is saying. I'm expecting for you to come and talk to me when you're going through some things. So I think that you should have individuals that you are mentoring, but not limited to those people within that circle if someone comes along.
Yeah, I like I like the idea of both should exist, collective and individual. You I think you talked about it a little bit in the beginning too, Coach. When we're talking about in the sense of trade, right? Why can't I go and ask someone who's been in the shop and on in the mechanic shop for 10 years, can you mentor me? What things can I look forward to coming up against me? What should I learn? What should I work on? Well, whatever the case may be, whatever that 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 mentorship looks like. And I think it's an honor, especially as men, for a younger man to come and ask to be mentored, to be coached through this thing. You take it creates that relationship to cause that one-on-one time, right? uh and then not just behind the wrench, but also, hey, let's go get lunch, let's go sit down, let me show you some other stuff I'm working on. Have you looked into the stock market? Have you looked into doing this? Have you looked into doing that? You start, and I think sometimes even being put in that position causes you to step up in your own life so that you can share something down. So it causes you both to elevate together as well. So yes, but then there are uh, collective experiences, right? As a community, I could tell I could tell one young black man something, and it would be relevant for all the black men in his area, right? Because I shared something with him based off of what I see, because I've been there. I've been in that environment, or whatever the case may be. So yeah, there's some things that should be collective, that should be communicative, and then there's some things that should be individually nurtured. And I think that there's enough experience out here for us to all go and find our mentor, and not and it doesn't mean we can't do group things, but I think I think that's more of like a circle kind of thing. Like, this is my circle. We all are growing. We're all at this level. We all, you know, learn. Just like when you go to basic or AIT. Like, that's a lot of us for a long time. We remember that circle. We graduated AIT together. We became 42s together. We know what you know, you know, we're at the same level of knowledge and experience, at least experience, right? And so that's your circle. I get that, and I think a lot of us, we grow together, because some of us, we grow because of competition. I bet you I get to ANOC for our ALC first. I bet you I get this first. And we're pushing each other. That's communicative. But But I'll digress on that right there.
So I want to make sure I'm clear because we've pretty much come to the end of the show. Some of those things are more of teaching, like we talked about previously. That's not so much as mentorship. Remember, again, mentorship is all about the future progression of the individual. Like day to day things is okay, but the day to day things is realized by the individual that's working the thing in the group that they're working it with. Mentorship is more so of like the future projective path of that individual. Um, and I'm agreeing with both perspectives. I think individual mentorship is required so that we can have the wisdom of the collective experience. Like, I think sometimes what we believe is that the collective experience just comes by happenstance. But I think if that's what we believe, then I think we're doing the collective experience a great injustice. It's important for each person to have mentorship happening in their life so that the collective experience can be robust enough so that the community overall can actually grow. I do like what Lisa is saying here because I think this is one of the problems that social media creates. We get information from this person and information from this person and information from this person and information from this person, but we don't necessarily know this person. We have not built a relationship with this person. I have not had the opportunity to sit down and ask this person one-on-one questions. So they're not mentoring me, they're teaching a large group. And so what we're doing is we're confusing that with mentorship and say, I'm gonna do exactly what that person said to do. But how? Because it sounds good in theory, but there's more that goes along with it. And so we have to be careful. You can't just go get information from all different sources thinking that, oh, it's going to work perfectly for me. No, not really. So we got to be careful, right? Individual mentorship, I think, is a necessity for each person so that the collective experiences, when it comes together, the collective experience can be valued relative experience, not just a bunch of people to come together bumping their guns based upon, you know, living for 50, 60, 70 years. So just my thoughts. Again, greatly appreciate everybody's thought, everybody's input in the chats. Again, Facebook, whether it's Instagram or YouTube. I greatly appreciate you guys. Greatly appreciate these gentlemen on this panel, man. Awesome insights and great feedback. And of course, as always, this brings us to our bittersweet moment. Our hold on, wait before I do that. Let me get this out of the way. Brings us to our bittersweet moment. Our final thoughts.
Again, I apologize for the camera malfunction this evening. Uh, I'll do better. But I appreciate everyone that's in the chats. I appreciate my brothers for this conversation. This was a good one. I liked it. I enjoyed it. But I will say, I was thinking about Timothy, of course, because son of Timothy. Timothy walked with Paul throughout Paul's ministry for quite some time, and as Paul was leaving Timothy to lead the assembly, he left him two letters we know of, right? First and Second Timothy, and those two letters stuck all the way down to us. I believe Timothy held on to it dearly because it was preserved for even this time. And so, with that said, the mentorship never ended, but we know that the gospel continued to go forth, and it went forth effectively enough that we are still trying to decipher the truth today. So that mentorship that was given, that was shown, it never died. It continued to mentor and it continued to teach. So no matter where we are in our walks, in our careers, in our life, in our relationship with the Most High, it's important that we have our mentor, but we don't allow that mentorship to die. That mentorship should be handed down to another generation. We must present ourselves uh likable and in such an esteem that the younger generation will take us on as mentors, so that those things don't die. And yes, of course, we know things change with each generation, so they have to learn how to take the knowledge and information that they've learned and mold it to their experience, just like we had to. So, uh, with that, I say love y'all, and I'm out. That's it.
The male mentor crisis. I think there is a crisis because we have people who aren't seeking mentors and may think they know everything or are scared to just speak up and say that they don't know. So when it comes to male leadership, I think that men should lead the way. I think that we should be leaders within our communities, within our homes and such. Because at my age, people may look and say, "Man, what do you have to teach me?" But I've lived a long enough life and had enough experiences to where I have something to offer. And I can't just say I got the offer and I'm sitting on the stoop and I'm not willing to give that knowledge out. I need to let people see that, hey, I've been a father, I'm a grandfather now. So when it comes to parenting, there are certain things that I've gone through that can help you along your journey. There are certain things with money that I'm knowledgeable at that can help you along your journey. And we need to find ways to make it make sense to them. As it was said in the chat, we got to stay relevant. We can't just think how we thought back in 1991 or 82 or that way. We have to be consistently learning because I will learn until I'm gone, until I'm dust in the ground. And as I learn, hopefully I'm able to teach. Hopefully I'm able to lead. Hopefully I'm able to give the knowledge that I have to the generations behind me so that they won't fall in the same pitfalls. Or if they do, they know how to come from up under those things. And when it comes to that collective mentorship, it has to be where each one of those people within the collective are learning from the mentor, not just within. I'm sitting idly by and I'm in the collective because in the military, we knew that I'm not leading everybody. Everybody might be in formation, but everybody not listening. And those that are listening, those are the people that will come to me, and those are the people that I can mentor. Those are the people that I can gain relationships with, to where now when I say something, I know that this person is listening, that this person is open to dialogue, that they aren't afraid of opening up to me and letting me see them for who they are. Because when we can open up to one another and show who we are, that's where we not only learn what they know, they learn whether or not that person cares.
I greatly appreciate what everybody is saying here. And I agree. It is definitely a crisis when it comes down to male mentorship. Um, I think it's important for every person to invest in themselves. If we do not invest in ourselves, and I think we're doing ourselves a great injustice. Again, going back to what we talked about previously, it's important for us to be a collective. But again, I get to add to the collective experiences based upon the things that I invested in myself. So in essence, it becomes a shared thing. We did a poll, and out of the 9 votes that came in, the question was, what is more of a detriment to mentorship? 3 options: behavior, appearance, and possessions. Out of the 3 options, there were 2 that were selected. 88% of the people said behavior, 11% of the people said appearance. And they're not wrong. I'm going to say it that way. They're not wrong. From the internal perspective of the mentor, it is behavior. From the external perspective of the mentee, it is absolutely appearance. That's why I said what I said previously. What they see is what they believe. What I portray should be what I believe. So the combination of the two, the express behavior of me based upon what they observe in me, should be the thing that brings us together in order to create that relationship. Well, if you think about what I just said, that holds true for every relationship that you can ever think about. Even in the midst of your job, you get paid to do a thing, but what keeps you there is the behavior, not just doing the thing. If you don't believe me, go to work and start changing your behavior and just start acting out. Become a problem person at work and see how long you keep that job. It's the same thing when it comes down to mentorship. People look at who you are and people look at what you do. Who you are and what you do come from the source of what you believe. And what you believe ultimately creates how you behave. So it has to be a congruency that exists between what you're believing and what you're actually portraying in real time. Make yourself available. Like again, I go back to it, and I think it was Sean Major Fuentes who said it. Like there are mentors out there. I being one of them. Make yourself available. Say, hey, I'm a mentor. Anybody who's looking for a mentorship, come to me. Like I said, the mentee is the one responsible for going to the mentor and requesting that they become the mentor. The other side to it, do not believe that every mentor will say yes. They're not required to say yes. There should be a conversation between you and that person so that they can qualify you. Because at the end of the day, sometimes we think we want a thing, but we're not mentally prepared for the thing that we say that we want. So the mentor should be understanding, do you have the commitment level to be in this relationship or not? If you are a young person who is listening to this tonight, what I ask you a couple of things. Number one, what is it that you want to do? Where do you see yourself going? Right? And then write some of these things down. Find a person, male, female, whatever that looks like. I don't really care. We're talking about men tonight, but I'm talking to everybody right now. Find somebody in your circle, outside of your circle, whatever, and be brave enough to go ask them a question so that they can help you in the direction that you want. But don't just ask a question looking for, as we tend to say, freebie, right? Make a commitment to that person. Try to create a relationship between you and that person. Establish a relationship and make a commitment to that relationship, regardless of what they tell you, how it feels in the midst of said conversation, and what you need to do based upon what they tell you. Be committed to that relationship. And that would be my final thought for this particular conversation. Listen, I greatly appreciate you guys. Awesome conversation. Greatly appreciate you guys in the chat. I love your feedback. Remember, I know Crystal put it in there already, but remember, tomorrow morning, 10:30 a.m. is the Hearts of Women. So make sure that we're supporting our women because they be having some awesome conversations. Yes, I said it that way intentionally. They be having, right? There's some great conversations over there, and I think we'll do them great justice to actually show up and participate. Greatly appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome. And again, as always, every week here on the Hearts of Men, it is our desire to give you the best version of what we have in that moment. So that being said, we kept you a little over. We appreciate you guys staying here. But listen, you guys have a great rest of your evening. We'll see you guys in the morning, and let the best version of yourself be a blessing to somebody else.